Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fatima. I will be having this important conversation with Chelenge. Firstly, thank you all for braving the weather and getting here on this grey afternoon. Yes, if I do a little, I'm sure you all know Chelenge, but I'll do a little introduction about Chelenge. Chelenge was raised and born in Kericho in the Rift Valley in 1961. And she works in mediums of painting and sculpture since 1984. Chelenge taps into her personal experiences and memories to create works that reflect human behavior and fragility at the heart of the human condition. Chelenge is renowned to be one of the most foremost sculptors in Kenya and is an incredible human being who I'm so honored to sit here with today and ask a few questions, and then you'll have a chance to also ask your questions to Chelenge. So if we dive right in, as we all know, our childhood informs who we become and who we are. Chelenge, if you take us back to when you were born and where you were born and where you grew up, I want the audience to get a deeper understanding of who you are.
So I was born in Kericho because my mom had gone to visit my aunt who was not feeling well. And in those days, they depended a lot on midwives. So my mom went into labor and they sent for a midwife who came and tried to help my mom. Thank God the hospital, the mission hospital, wasn't very far. Because in the end she said, maybe she better go and see the doctor. So my mom was taken actually on a donkey, on a cart, because there was no cars, no labor had cars there. And she was taken to this mission hospital where she was out to give birth, and she gave birth to twins. I am the survivor of that twin. And yeah.
And what was it like growing up in the Rift Valley? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Afterwards, we went back home because home is Everett. So after the visit and giving back, my mom stayed 3 months, and then we head on back to Everett. And a few months later, my dad found a job in Uganda. And he went there, but my mom and I stayed home. It was very hard for my mom losing a child, and she was worried for me also. Didn't know how things were going to go. But I stayed with her, and maybe till I was about 2, then we went to Uganda to join my dad. He used to come every month or so to come and visit us. Then I was in Uganda from 2 to around 5. Then we came back home. And so I grew up back home. I worked with other children. I learned to go hunting with the boys. I love hunting, by the way. I can do it today, I'll still do it. I learned to make bows and arrows. And my dad used to make chairs which were called kitimotos. I don't know if you guys, any of you know kitimoto? Kitimoto is small chairs that you make to sit by the fire at home in the village in the kitchen. And I used to help them. And growing up was an amazing journey for me. I spent most of my time in the forest, in the river, climbing hills, and, sort of swimming like Tarzan from the other side of the river, holding on to roots to the other side. I did all that.
You had a lot of freedom.
There was a lot of freedom. My children were feeling very safe. We had no fear. We were brought up in a way that it took the whole village to raise a child. And children, they were brought up with love. They belong to all the parents. So I could not say, that's my dad, that's my mom, that's not my dad, that's not my mom. No. Every man who had children of my age was my dad. Every mama who had children of my age, that's my mom. And they took the times in training all of us, giving us discipline. You were chapat everywhere. You needed to stand up. You were passing by. You needed to say hello with respect. And nowadays that is impossible. I touch your kid, you are going to come for me in front of you. What are you doing to my child? I don't know if it's the right way of bringing children, but I had a very good childhood. And then sometimes later, after helping my dad and doing hunting, I did 14 years, my mom was worried for me, because she was my bodyguard, a girl in the village. The mamas were the bodyguards, because if I got pregnant, it meant that my mom and I would have to be kicked out of the home. So women were very, I see it a lot with Indian families. Maybe now it's less. They have the same.
It's the same with Somali families too, which is my background. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I went through that also, but I was a fighter. I said, I don't have a boyfriend. And in fact, I didn't. I loved going hunting with the dogs. They were very nice to me. They never approached me in any way. I felt very safe. And I had a great team.
And is that how you first encountered carving or using wood as a way to,
Around maybe 7, 8, I did something for my mom. Because they cook, the cooking on clay pots. There was no souvenirs.
Yeah.
They cook on clay pots and stone.
Yeah.
So this clay pot is round. But I thought I'd make something for her to be placing it there. And I did a piece of art. I didn't know it was art.
Yeah.
It was a piece of wood, from a root, making it so that when she lifts the pot from the fire, she places it there.
So that was the first time you were making something with your hands, like a tangible thing that you didn't think of art.
No, there was no
Yeah.
The word art?
Yeah, yeah. Even in, I think my background is also anthropology. I've read a lot about African art. And if you really go back, these were things that were used for either rites of passage, or they were spoons, wooden spoons, or they were carvings, or items that you'd find in the kitchen that later on then was interpreted as art. So yeah, that's interesting.
There was a lot of beadworks, and one of the beadwork designer in the village was my grandmother. In those days, they didn't wear, there was no hardly clothes, so they wore skin, they joined the goat skin and made skirts out of them, and like a shawl or a bigger shuka, to carry the ladies also with it, and to cover themselves, and those were decorated with beads. And that also I did help my grandmother do it. I loved, they were not washed, so you didn't need soap, you didn't need water, but they used to oil it. Cleaning was cleaned with oil, wrap it all over.
Yeah. So you were surrounded by art in different forms as a child. Yeah.
Also the calabashes, also they store the milk in,
Yeah.
to make yogurt. Very good yogurt. And they used to decorate those calabashes with beads and straps from leather. They still exist.
Yeah, they do.
But not so many, because now we have mal and shelves in the supermarkets.
Yeah. That's true. But there are still some tribes across Africa that still use them.
On
Yeah.
the countryside. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I got some 2 weeks ago brought from me by family friends. Okay.
Oh, that's a treat.
Nice treat.
Okay. Thank you for painting a picture of your childhood, which was full of so much adventure and freedom, and and how you encountered art in different forms. If we move on a little bit into much later in your life, when you started first making art, what was the drive to do it? How did you get started? Paint a picture of the first day for us when you first picked up that brush and had a canvas or a piece of paper that you were painting on.
When I started painting, that very first painting that I did, first of all, my children were going to school, and the youngest wanted to go to a baby play school or something. What do you call it?
Nursery or play school.
Yeah, just from 8 to 12, I have to pick him up. But when I went to pick him up, things have changed. He wanted to stay and play with his friends. He went under the cushions when he saw me. And I saw his legs, and then the friends were all standing like they didn't know what to say. And I said to one Japanese boy, Akira, I said, Akira, where is my son? And he goes. So I went to call him. I said, it's time to go home, my darling. And he said, Mama, I want to stay and play with my friends. And I will come in the bus with my sisters. I said, no, but it's too long for you to stay in school the whole day. He said, no. And I saw, if I took him home, it's true. He was going to be lonely and playing alone. He's never used to being alone. So I decided then, there and then, things have changed. I'll be home alone, just dropping the children to school, going home, and going to almost an empty house. If you have people in the house and then everybody leaves, you really feel empty. It's like they've undressed you completely. I decided when driving back, I want to paint. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to paint. I went to Biashara Street. I bought a Mariakan. In those days, the traffic, you could go to town in half an hour, you're back home. There was less traffic than now. And I bought Mariakani, came to Westlands, went to a hardware store, and brought 1 liter of every oil paint. I went home, I cut the Mariakani to pieces that I wanted. Behind our house, nobody used to go there. So I nailed everything on the wall that are pieces that I had cut. And I just started painting. And I realized all I wanted to paint was the stories told by my grandmother. In my grandmother's house, she never lived alone. There were always older mamas our age coming, they would be by the fire. And these people didn't need to sleep much. They were sleeping and taking turns, like everybody had a time when to sleep. And so there are so many stories, of which now I know it's cartoons. What I see, the cartoons, is actually those stories we were told, and the television is now a grandmother, to all the children, because there is no grandmothers to tell the children the stories. It was very beautiful moments in those days. So I was a lot with my grandmother, and I was recalling these stories as I paint. The brushes were the brushes for painting the walls. The paint, and I didn't know that, first of all, I had to prime the canvas so that it doesn't show on the other side. I was painting, and it didn't matter. When it got dry, I turned around, there was a painting at the back and the front. I thought, wow, 2 paintings in one night. Very good for me.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I felt really proud of myself, having two paintings on one canvas.
Fantastic.
Like, should I show this or this thing? Yeah.
Right. Okay, and I'm interested to know whether, because your child had started going to school, and I'm sure there was a lot of loneliness, but also there's a transition there, right? From being a mum, full, hands-on mother, and then there's a loss. Was that something that you were thinking about, that loss of not having your child always there? Was loss something that you were, because also you talked about your grandmother and remembering her, and she had passed by that point.
Yeah.
So was there
You mean when
loss?
I was having children? Or
when your last child went to school and then you came home and you were experiencing that? Yeah.
No, I wasn't really, it wasn't really like, you can't have children and keep them at home.
Yeah.
They have to use the wings you gave them to
Absolutely.
fly.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, this is the time he uses his wings, and he wants to be with his friends. I knew that time will come when they have to grow. Looking at myself, I wasn't home with my family.
Yeah.
So who am I to hold on to this child and say you can't go because you are mine? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew it comes time when he have to use his wings.
But I'm sure it was an emotional experience to.
It was because when you have a small child, and especially the last one, you don't really have time to decide, what do I do next? It's like this child is just going to stay small and stay at home. And it is a lie that we mothers lie to ourselves. But when the time came, I understood, okay, it's time for him to use his wings.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. If we move to the exhibition now, this retrospective is the first ever exhibition to cover the entirety of your work. And I would love to know, what was the process like for you in putting this together? I'm sure it was quite emotional to bring all of your work and to look at the work again and encounter it and remember all the stories. I remember when we met first, you told me that, I asked you actually, have you written a book yet about your life? Because you have a very interesting life. And you said each piece of art is a book in itself. And I thought that was quite profound. So what was the experience like in bringing this all together?
Wow, I had Michael and Ayako came to pay me a visit at home. It was breakfast. You came for breakfast. Yeah. And after we finished breakfast, I think it was Ayako or Michael who asked me if I wanted to do an exhibition at NCAI. And I didn't even know about it yet. And I said, yes, that would be so beautiful. And I didn't think about it much. And then they came back again sometimes later. And they said they're really looking forward to having my exhibition. I didn't know it was going to go to this. I just thought it's the normal exhibitions that I've been, like having in other places. But this was different. It took time for me to understand what it actually meant. It made me very happy. It made, the journey itself to a point of looking and thinking, wow, did I do all that? It's like at one moment you'd forgotten you actually did. I didn't know how many pieces I've done. I'm still not very sure I do. But it was it's very amazing, and they did a wonderful display. The work, the way it takes around, even for me, it's very, very amazing. Very emotional. Emotions of joy, and every piece takes me back to the day I started it. I see the wood of the log, and then I see the beginning of every piece. So each time I'm here or closer to my pieces, I'm not living in now, I'm living in the past. It's amazing, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I always feel like, that young girl, young mama, it's so beautiful, so beautiful.
Incredible.
And thank you for paying, a visit. For me, it's like you pay a visit to my family.
And shout out to Don, who is the curator of this exhibition.
They did a wonderful job with this
team. They did a great job, absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Don.
And if we talk a little bit about the title, which I absolutely love, The Long Way Home, it's very evocative, and I'm curious to know what the title means to you.
The title means to me from the very first piece that I took. I don't know if you've seen that when I was a child, I also used to go and follow men who are building huts. And they had this, they were, I think now we can say weapons of mass destruction. Panga, machete, and there was no chisels. And thinking about the piece that I made for my mom, to put her pot in, and then afterwards starting the paintings and then the sculptures, and being a mother, running a home as well as, remembering to pick the children from school, to wake up in the morning to take the children to school, go to the market. You all know how home is run. And I made it. I feel like I made it. I walked the mountains, up, back to the valley and up. And I thought that's why the title, The Long Way Home. It also means that I have arrived. At my age, I feel I have arrived. Thank you.
That was actually going to be my next follow-up question, whether you feel like you arrived. Okay. In terms of themes that I have found, having encountered and absorbed this exhibition, there are some very key themes that I have found. That being motherhood, God and religion, nature, and so forth. So if I ask you a little bit about motherhood, because it seems to be a major theme, and also one that really resonates with me since I've become a mum 15 months ago. I have a gorgeous 15-month-old baby boy.
Congratulations.
So when I was actually looking at some of the sculptures about, labor of love and the vessel and birth and being a mother and, feeding your child, I felt it on a deep level because that's been my experience for the last 15 months. And I've heard you say a labor of love, and that's what one of your pieces is called, a labor of love. What is it about motherhood or your own motherhood journey that inspired you to create these works?
You see, a mother is someone, or a woman for that matter, what they go through. And I don't know how they make it, I don't know. When I was young, our neighbor had 14 children, and they were all boys. The reason why she ended up having 14 was because she was hoping to have a girl. So she kept trying for a girl. And the more she tried, the more the boys came. And in those days, there was no family planning. Nobody would have taken it anyway. And these boys, and this is also something that in my community, I don't know in other communities, but especially in those days, These boys wake up in the morning, the sun comes from the east. They go behind the house, they stand there to take the sun, and so they were meant to be staying home. The girls were the one to be married and take off, go and start your family. So these boys were to stay home, and for them to stay home, they were not given responsibilities, nothing. So they go from one home to another to visit their friends. They come back home for lunch. They come with their friends. And they are not all coming together. The firstborn comes with his own friends. The secondborn, like that, And the mother is still just cooking. In the end, she couldn't eat. And one day, the neighbors told her, you know what? Hey, it's time you let these guys take care of themselves. She didn't know what that meant, or, she would feel guilty. But one evening, the last born comes with his 5 friends, woke up, Mom, we have come, we need food. She woke up, she gave them food. As soon as those ones take off, the third born came with his friends. And then she went to put on her clothes, put on the blanket, take the sufuria and say, you guys wait there, I get water for you to wash your hands. She went while leaving the sufuria going, and she left for 4 years. Left the guys to take care of themselves. They started marrying very quickly, because the mother was not there to take care of them.
They saw the responsibility.
So if you look at the life of that woman, what she had to carry, what she had to endure, it's so heavy, It's so heavy, and yet very strong, and keep on going. You find a woman doesn't need to eat. They fight with the husband, the woman will not eat. But she's not going to starve, and she still will feed the husband, will feed the children, but she's not eating. She's so busy thinking of the others, how the others are. Somebody is sick, they will go and visit the sick. They are there to help them. Mothers, women are vessels to me.
There's a lot of sacrifice, is what I'm hearing.
A lot of sacrifices. They forget themselves because they are filled with that love for others, given the right and the respect that they deserve. Women are very powerful. We should all respect them. Our mothers, everybody.
Yeah. And it's... And the first piece that you created, the sculpture, was My Mother and I. What was the process in creating that piece?
That piece came... I did not know about my sister then, because about my twin sister I was told later. The reason was because I was still having children, and in my culture, when there is twins and one passes away, it should not be talked about to the survivor one, because they want to recall the twins. That's how they do it. It's a long story, but I can tell you until tomorrow. Anyway, so they didn't, for example, my mom kept saying, oh, your son is 3 years old, you have to have another one, He's 4, you have to have another one. In the end, I told her, I said, Mom, I'm not going to have another child. I've reached here, this is where it stays. And she said, okay, she took it nicely, and I think she was saying, like, all mothers will try, get married, have children. I'm sure most of you know that story. And so she went home, and a month later, she called me. She sent a telegram. In those days, we didn't have phones like we do now. She sent a telegram saying, she's coming, and she's coming with a friend of hers who she wanted me to meet. This friend was the midwife that was to help my mom give birth.
Who delivered
and she's
you?
the one who said, no, take her to the hospital.
Okay.
Maybe because she was pregnant with twins. And then the midwife also was not somebody who was always taking care of my mom. My mom had left the midwife back home, was a new, and maybe she thought, twins, she better go to hospital. So she came with this lady. It was so nice. She said, Chelenge. I didn't know her. She said she's the one who held me when I was a tiny baby. She was going to help my mom with the twins. And the reason why they brought her, because there was a ceremony to be done, so to pass the twins on to my children. Not to let me, live my life, but to recall them through my children, all my great-grandchildren or something like that. So maybe she's still going to come, because so far I have 3 children, and it's only the oldest, the older one is the one who has a child who is my grandson and my best friend. Maybe the others will also sometimes, but times are changing. I don't know.
And did you create the piece "My Mum and I" after that experience?
After that, I used to have somebody here with me. There was always someone next to me before I came to know about my twin sister. And this person who was next to me, I never saw the face, but somebody was there. When I knew about it and the ceremonies were done, I stayed with elder women, really the age of my grandmother, and they were begging me to let her go, to set myself free, so that when they recall her, I've already let her go. It was very hard for me to know, and I was thinking, I wish, she lived. Imagine how we would trick the boys, change clothes and I'll be Chelenge maybe 20 times, or she will be Chelenge, I will be her. Things like that. I thought that would have been very beautiful, but it was not to be. So after 5 days, I had to come back to Nairobi, and I had to deal with it alone. The way we do it in my culture, when somebody dies, we bury them by the door. The first thing you see in the morning when you open the door is that grave or the tree of that person who, normally they used to plant trees, like I would still go home and sit under my grandmother's tree and my grandfather's tree. But now they put the box and then the cross, and so it's very different. And then after that, it took me like 3 years, something like that, and then I had to let her go. And I know the day she left, then I did the piece.
So that piece was done after you released your
if you
sister.
see, is one child.
Exactly, I was going to ask you that.
I let her go through that sculpture.
Wow. It's very powerful and fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling us that story. Another thing that I'm interested to know about before we leave the theme of motherhood is that a lot of mothers find it difficult to juggle everything. So your career as an artist and then, being a mother, how did you sort of balance that? And also mothering yourself whilst you're also mothering your children, because as we know, motherhood brings up a lot of memories and unresolved maybe traumas or things from your past that you need to, resolve, like your twin sister. How do you kind of juggle all of that, the emotional, the physical side of things, the burdens and the.
You see, when I let my sister go, I already had children. I had 3 children, and I'd had also 2 miscarriages.
Sorry about that.
But I'm still here. And so, you have to deal with it and face it in a way that it is the way it is. It is life.
Yeah.
Like,
I also had a miscarriage before I had my son, so it's very common.
Yeah, like I said, in my culture, we bury by the door. You deal with it every day. That is how to overcome things, to accept and move on. So, as a mother raising children, to tell you the truth, I still don't understand. Sometimes I think I'm not the one who did those pieces.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
You did all of that
How
whilst
did
raising
I
children.
manage? And then looking back as a mother, and being a mother, it's another thing. Being a wife is also another thing. How I managed? I don't know. But I did.
Somehow you did, though.
Yes, somehow I did. Somehow I did.
That's brilliant. Another prominent theme in your work that's laced in the thread of your work is religion, God, and the story of Adam and Eve. And that tackles, in my opinion, women's role in society and inequalities that exist. Take us through your ponderings at that time and why you decided to create those pieces and sort of question dominant views about men and women in a way.
When I was 6 or 7, I come from a family who did not go to church. And I don't know if they had a name, I don't know. But I was not raised by family and parents who say go to church. I went to church with my friends. They invited me to go to church with them. As kids, my parents didn't even know that I'd gone to church, and it wasn't because I was hiding or they would refuse me. No. And on the wall, there was cross, Jesus Christ. On the cross, he was it was brownish. And on the wall next, there were these paintings of guys, killing. And these people had red eyes, red lips. They were covered in woods and with spears and bows and arrows. They were all aiming at Jesus. And I realized all those people who were aiming at Jesus, they were all my color. And Jesus was a different color. And I felt like, they killing for nothing. They are killing somebody who is holy, I nearly cried for Jesus. And then I went home traumatized. That has never left my mind. Even as I speak now, I'm still seeing that. And I thought, I felt guilty because my people killed Jesus. Yet I didn't know very much about Jesus. And I had not met him. And years later, as I grow older and I'm thinking about that, I went to this story of Garden of Eden and the forbidden fruit. The two all confused me. And I started really fighting with God. I can argue with God. And sometimes I've heard him say, Chelenge, that's enough now. No, really. I'm telling you the truth. He's a friend of mine. Yeah. He's a very good friend of mine. So, I was asking about this Garden of Eden, what was that fruit, you know? And I could see God was part of doing the damage that the woman faces today. Women, they go through pregnancy, their periods, their sickness, you know, it's a lot of things that women go through. And so I was thinking, how did it come to be? There was a lot of questions. I asked a lot of questions. I fought a lot. And I remember there's a painting I did afterwards. I wanted to show God that, you see, I know you are the creator of all this because you watched, because you created Adam, and then you realized he was so lonely, you created a partner for him. But the partner was different I call it Coca-Cola bottle. It's beautiful. Coca-Cola bottle for me was very beautiful piece of work. And so I said, so you created this Adam, you created Eve. What was he expecting to see? Because I saw him under the trees, you know, from heaven there looking like, when I find you, if I put them together, what will happen? He was the one who created that. He's part of that. He was also an artist, you know. So he wanted to see how, that's what I feel. And so the Garden of Eden, after that, I came to understand the forbidden fruit. It is not a fruit as from a tree. I found that out in myself and my questions. It was answered. The fruit is what I carry on my body. It's part of my body. If you put a woman, a girl there, and a man here, yes, the man will be called rapist, but those temptations are very strong, very powerful. But God did that to Adam and Eve. And that the woman ended up being the one to be blamed. And ended up to be punished. And I didn't want to follow without questioning. I like to question. Because I want to know. I think if we question and get answers, then we will know. But that is not how it is. I came up with myself and understood it's my body, my private part, my groups, you know, and that's all that it is.
Yeah. And that's a powerful place to be, to, you know, question, inquire, and get your own answers and your own interpretations. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked some fathers, some pastor, but they, like Chelenge, wachamaneno mingi, where omba tu, you know. And I find that there's more I needed to know. So now I know. I've done Adam and Eve, I don't know how many times. I've done Eve, I don't know how many times. So Adam and Eve, they've lived with me a lot.
I guess it's a way for you to sort of figure this out while you're asking the questions. You're creating the pieces to find the answers.
Yeah, we talked a lot. We talked a lot. All my pieces, I talked to them. And in the end, when we finish, some can take 3 years, some a year, some 2 years. When we finish, I give a very beautiful hug and say thank you for the good time you've given me.
That's fascinating. Thank you. And then if we move to something that I have found in the piece They, and I know that, you know, friends and people that I know who belong to the queer or gay community have felt seen in that piece. The piece that talks about people or portrays people who are from a different sexual orientation than the dominant one. And some may even say that it's representative of the non-binary identity or experience. How did you come about through exploring? Because in my opinion, it's quite ahead of its time in exploring that. And did you know that you would get this encouraging response from, the queer and gay community who feel very seen by your work?
Wow.
It's quite a long question.
There was an exhibition I had, and the journalist who came wouldn't photograph the work because they had boobs. He was worried that a father would buy a newspaper and then he's sitting at home relaxing, and then the son will see the boobs. It was quite a story because the next time he came, I asked him what he was coming for, because everything had boobs. I'd ask him if I say, where did you get your fast food? If you can't photograph this with boobs, where did you get your fast food? Where did your fast food come from? He didn't answer me. But apparently that day he took the bus, went all the way home to Kakamega to say to his mom, thank you for being my mom. And thank you for loving me, and thank you for feeding me the fast food.
So you made him rethink his
Yeah,
ideas about
apparently I helped him. So when we saw each other next time, second time, he said, Chelenge, thank you so much. I didn't come for work with books. You told me something that he wasn't thinking about, he wasn't aware about. And that it was so true that he went home to see his mother to say thank you. And so when we come back today, that piece was one. Was one whole piece standing together.
It fits together.
Because I wanted to do two. But I wasn't sure if it will be received, I wasn't sure whether would be accepted. I don't know. Until, so it's two there, one, until Vinyavanga came out announcing he was gay. And I have friends who also have, and they are beautiful people. And they are children of people. They did not just fall from the sky. And yet, they were not free to express themselves. It's like having an abnormal child. People used to hide them, tie them up until they go crazy. They were ashamed of them. But these people also, I fight for them, or I speak for them. And it's the first time I did that with they. Because they say they do not accept that kind of behavior in Kenya. What do they mean? Are they saying we do not accept those children, so kill them? The church refused them. The government refused them. But they are people's children. They are fathers and mothers. Before people used to have like an albino child, the mother will be kicked out that she had gone with a Muzungu and have a baby with a Muzungu. No. That was not true. Children are born, nobody is creating the other. We all come, of course, through love. But what is created there, we would know when it comes into the world. So why do we say we don't accept these people? They are abused, they are threatened, they are laughed at. Just because they are not straight. It's not fair. And so I did they. And when Vinyavanga came out, that piece I put it how it was supposed to be. Sorry, I keep forgetting you. Do you know that? Yeah, I should say it like this.
It's okay. What I've noticed in your work, which I think is very powerful, is there are pieces loving them as they are, which is talking about disabilities, you know, people with disabilities.
Yeah.
They one and they two that you've just talked about queer people. And then Adam and Eve, the role of a woman in society. I would personally say that there is an element of activism in your work, whether that's what you intended or not. That's what I see, that you're trying to get people to somehow question inequalities in the world and inequalities in Kenya and, you know, in Africa. And these are inequalities that exist across the world. Now, did you intend this to be, do you consider yourself an activist of sorts, or have you just sort of landed in that position? Because,
maybe, but not in that word, but I think I'm just a fighter, you know, like fighting for humans.
I guess that's what an activist is, right?
Yeah, it is in many forms. But I want to speak for them through art. And that's what I have done. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
It's very appreciated.
Thank you.
Before I ask my last question, I'd like to open up to the audience to have a chance to ask Chelenge a question. If anybody has a burning question.
My friend Maggie.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Maggie.
My name is Maggie Otieno. I'm a sculptor. Chelenge, I love your work. I love your stories. And I feel as a sculptor, I can connect with so many of the things that you're saying. So my question is, you know, when you're an artist and you're experimenting on different mediums, because I've seen you're painting, you're doing woodcuts, you're doing sculptures, and there's usually spirits. For me, when I'm sculpting, I always feel like there's an energy and a spirit in materials that call you. And seeing that you work with different mediums, is there a specific material where the energy and the spirit of that material calls more than the other?
Thank you, Maggie. Everything I've touched with my hands, yes, they have. Like the paintings, it's a bit different energy, but the sculpting is very powerful. I love playing squash, and that is how I would, you know, it was part of calming down my emotions, and playing squash was bang, you know, you bang, and it's like just let that go, you know. That with the sculptures, it's perfect. With the painting, I do take a lot of work. I go for just taking a walk, because I guess it is sitting too much in one position or something like that. So it's different energy. It's different energy on different level. But both very beautiful, you know.
Hi, my name is Amas Kimani. So when you were talking about going to buy materials, when you bought 1 liter of oil for different colors, you spoke about Mariakani or something like that. Were you referring to canvas, or is that a sort of material?
Sorry?
Were you referring to canvas? So when you bought oil, you bought it together with something else?
They used to call it Mariacan in those days. Yeah.
What's that? Is that canvas?
It's canvas. Yeah. Yeah. It's canvas. They used to call it Mariacani because it used to be also, when the clothes came, as I remember when my grandmother told me, when the clothes came, it was white Mariacani. And it used to get very dirty. You know, when they sit around the fire, before they know it is all black, and they didn't know how to wash it because there was no washing soap. So they would wash it with ashes. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for this wonderful event. And also you speak so eloquently about the creation of the work and what goes into it. But my question is about what happens afterwards. Like, for so many African artists for so long, sort of their North Star of acceptance and approval was the West and being exhibited in, capitals in the West.
Can
and I was
you
wondering,
go a bit louder?
is this thing on? I don't. I have a voice I project. So yeah, for so many decades, African artists had to rely on the Western gaze in order to legitimize them, to make them feel approved. And I was wondering, from what I can see, that's not something that you have sought. And I was wondering, what goes into your thinking after the work's complete? How, whether or not, who accepts it, who appreciates it, what part of the world is appreciating it, or
Who's consuming your work? When you finish your work, do you think about, is it going to be exhibited in Berlin or Paris or London or in Nairobi or Johannesburg? And who do you make your work for? Is it for an African Kenyan audience or is it for the world at large?
Artist, working as an artist, a woman gets pregnant, gives birth. I don't think they are thinking of when they have this baby, when this baby comes, I'll sell this baby in because artists, it comes from the soul, it's the soul. I think for me the nicest, the way I can say it was, I've been always very happy to work on a piece until it's finished. We have that hug. I'm busy thinking of the next one. And it's such a great joy. No, I never thought I would, never think it is, I'm doing it for African people or for Europe. No, I just work, and my thinking is I would like to work until the last bang. Just that hit, wow. If my time comes when the clock stops. I don't know where, it's never for certain people, but yeah, it's also a very good question you ask because in Kenya, the artists have a very, very hard time. Everything, materials are very expensive. You go to any offices in Nairobi, there are empty walls. Yet they are artists. You know what it is to live with art, even in hospitals? Hospitals for sick people, they need art. They will recover very quickly. It's really medicine. It's a very good therapy. We go to places, there's no ever support for artists to say, commission you to do this, or, let's give us your work for a certain period of time. Neither does the banks do that. So artists in Kenya, they struggle a lot. the paintings, to get paints, to get material. If they don't have, they go crazy.
I think we would love to have this conversation. We could have this all day. Chelenge is
it can be
a
all
wealth of
day.
knowledge and experience and wisdom. Whenever I sit with her, I find that I learn so much. So thank you, Chelenge. And I want to ask you, if you were going to leave a message, a legacy for Kenyan or African artists, or any artist for that matter, what would be that message?
If you've read in this book, there's a part where I said, I'm a lucky girl, I'm a lucky child. I'm a lucky child because I'm lucky. Because, you know, art, if you think art is, if you want to be rich quick, art, forget it. Art you have to build, to rebuild over and over and over and over, and you have nothing to eat. But as long as you have the material to work on, art, as I was saying, artists, they suffer. Materials are very expensive. It's not everybody who can afford it. But art, my friends, is not a quick money making. Look for something else. And if it is really calling you, then fight through and go for it, as I did. I made it, I'm here, and you know, for me to be here, Dawn and your team, Michael is not here, I want to thank them very much. I'm very lucky child. But art is not easy. It's not. Art, you have to change your lifestyle. Art, you have to think differently. As an artist, you have to, so long as you get food, you have food to eat, you have a roof over your head. Most of the time, it's very easy to say other things. That's next time, if I get it, if I manage to get it. But otherwise, the dreams is art. And I ask the youth, art comes in different forms. That they should look for the one that really fits them, that they really want to do. Not just because they want to be, artists. And art is talent, it's a lot of talent. Don't forget, nowadays we are so open-minded. For me, they used to say I'd gone crazy. Or nimerogwa. What is the word nimerogwa? Used to look and say, what? You're competing with men. This is a job for men. This is not for you. You know what? I think now, or even before, that they actually gave me courage. The more they say this is a man's job, it's not for you, you are a lady, the more I ate food. I think they did me very well.
You use that to your own power.
Yeah, because the more they say, Merongwa, what is wrong with you? She's crazy. I'm a vuta bangi. I don't smoke bangi. So the more I say, okay, you talk. By night you are sleeping.
That's brilliant.
So it wasn't easy for me to be an artist. I was insulted left and right. They put me down any which way they wanted to. They tried. But I wasn't going down that easily. No. I had that energy. Even though a piece can take 3 years, 4 years, You want to do business? You sit for the 4 years on a piece or 3 years. But art is beautiful. I would just say, everybody try. But let's have art in hospital, let's have art around sick people. You know, there are many people who are so sick in different ways. Art is very good medicine. Art is healing. But we need support.
Thank you, Chelenge. And thank you to you all, beautiful faces, for coming to this event. And also thank you to the Nairobi Contemporary Art Institute team, who are a brilliant team. And special thanks to Githigia, who organized this event.
Beautiful. Oh, I forgot
And
to thank
Chelenge. Thank you.